the name of the talk is The Rabbi's Top 10 Jokes. So how did this happen? Well, basically, after Rosh Hashanah services and Yom Kippur services, people came to me and said, Rabbi, your sermon, it was so nice. I got some nice compliments. It was so nice. I was like, that's great. And I got a little, choked up. And I said, so which part of my sermon did you like? And pretty much everyone said the same thing, the jokes. And I'm like, the stories, maybe the powerful lessons. No, Rabbi, we just like the jokes. And then I thought maybe it'll be nice to just get up there and just tell the jokes. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do right now. Now the question is, are the jokes just as funny when you don't have a Devar Torah involved? Is it just a relief? He just went through all this Torah and finally he says a joke, and is that why we laugh? I don't know. There might be a science behind this, and we're going to find out. We're going to find out. But the history of rabbis telling jokes goes back a very long time. It goes back to the time of the Talmud. There was a sage by the name of Rabbi who would begin his study classes or sermons every time with a milsa de bedichasa, a joke. The worst sentence to say for a rabbi when you want to stand up and speak is, it says in this week's Torah portion. Boom, you lost them. They're gone. It's Olav Hasholem. It's forget about it. There's no hope. If you start off with something else, you capture the imagination. That's what Rabbi would do. He would start off with something cute, current events, maybe a joke, and then people were listening, and then once he had their attention, he could slip into the Torah study. And so there are actually rules about this in rabbi school. They say that a joke you could say once every 2 years. Yeah. They say you can't say it more than once in every 2 years. A story you could say once in 3 years. And a Devar Torah you could say 6 times in the same sermon because no one's listening. So if a sermon normally starts off with a joke, my question to you is, should the rabbi's 10 jokes start off with a sermon? But the Torah is saying something interesting. No, if you want to go to the right place, you need to go lecha, to yourself. Every person has a godly soul. The godly soul is a spark of the divine. It's perfect, it's beautiful, it's pristine. Maybe on the outside we make some mistakes, but the path of Judaism is to return to ourselves, to go to ourselves, and that's the name of this week's Torah portion. Lech lecha. All right, we got that out of the way. Sir in the back, yeah, the Devar Torah is over. You can wake up now. So it's very important, when to use which joke. So, for example, one of the most difficult topics for rabbis is fundraising. You never want to talk to people about giving money to, the synagogue, to the JCC, to the Federation. It's just like, a real turnoff. So you need to have some kind of jokes. So here's a couple jokes that I use in order to soften the blow before the big ask, all right? So the rabbi stands up in front of the congregation, and there's a hole in the ceiling of the shul. And the water's dripping in, and the rabbi stands up and says, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is we have the funds, we have the money to fix the hole in the synagogue roof. Everyone says, oh, Baruch Hashem. What's the bad news? The bad news is the money is in your pockets. You know the story about the synagogue that was broken into by a group of thieves? Horrible. Right after the high holidays, they broke into the safe of the synagogue office and they stole more than $100,000 in pledges. The rabbi, the priest, and the minister are discussing how do we tithe. Tithing is so important in Judaism, giving charity. We live in a culture where we're told our happiness, our fulfillment, our sense of value comes from how much money we have and how many things we own. And in Judaism, we talk about the importance of giving because when we give, we find the greatest fulfillment and the greatest peace. So the rabbi, the minister, and the priest are having a conversation. How do we tithe? How do we give our charity? The minister says, I draw a circle and I stand in the middle of the circle. And I take all my money and I throw it up in the air. Whatever falls inside the circle, I keep. And whatever falls outside the circle, I give to the Lord. And the minister says, well, I do something similar. I draw a circle, I throw the money up in the air. Everything that falls inside the circle, I give to charity. And everything that falls outside of the circle, I keep for myself. And the rabbi says, and I do something similar as well. I draw a circle and I throw the money up in the air. Whatever God wants, he keeps. Whatever comes down, I keep. You know the story about the guy who got an Aliya in the synagogue? There was a gentleman, he wasn't there for a long time, and the rabbi said to him, sir, we'd like to give you an Aliya. Yahamod, which means stand up, right? You call someone to the Torah. What's your Hebrew name? He says, Esther ben Moshe. The rabbi says, no. Your Hebrew name. He says, yeah, Esther ben Moshe. Esther, the son of Moshe. The rabbi says, no, I'm trying to get your Hebrew name. He says, Esther ben Moshe. The rabbi says, I don't understand. He says, Rabbi, it's like this. I'm going through financial difficulty. Right now, everything's in my wife's name. All right, last one for the charity jokes, okay. So this Gentile fellow sees his neighbor installing a mezuzah on his front door. And so he says, what is that? He says, well, it's a mezuzah. You know, mezuzah, it reminds us of God as we walk through the threshold. It's a reminder of God is protecting us, and it brings us good luck, and it brings us blessing. And the Gentile says, wow, that's so beautiful. Can I have one? And the gentleman says, sure, I'll call my rabbi. The rabbi comes by and gives this Gentile fellow a mezuzah. And 3 days pass, and the Gentile comes to the rabbi's office. He's knocking frantically. He has the mezuzah in his hand. He says, please take it back. Take it back. The rabbi says, what's wrong? He says, did you not feel blessed? Oh, I felt blessed. Did you not feel holy? Oh, I felt so holy. Why are you giving it back? He says, ever since I put this thing up, every 10 minutes I get a knock on the door and somebody is saying, tzedakah? Tzedakah? Occasions are a very important time to have for rabbis to have jokes up their sleeves. You gotta have jokes for a bris, a wedding, a bar bat mitzvah. So let me give you a couple bar bat mitzvah jokes. Sound good? By the way, I'm taking requests as well. You could just, I'll open it up to topics. You say the topic, and it's got to be clean, by the way. Okay? Please, don't give me one of those. Yeah. So there was this rabbi, at every single bar bat mitzvah, he would give a Bible, the Torah, to the child. And he'd hand it to them and say, hold on to this book, yada, 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 you know. Anyway, one time a kid was being bar mitzvah, and the rabbi came to give his gift, and he gave the kid an umbrella. The kid's standing there holding this umbrella, and everyone's like a little weirded out. Afterwards, the parents go to the rabbi and say, Rabbi, everyone you give a Bible to, but our kid, he gave him an umbrella. Rabbi says, an umbrella I know he'll open. A rabbi, a priest, and a minister. Oh, we love these, right? So they're getting together, they're having a little coffee, or a schnapps, whatever, and they're schmoozing about, the community, and they're discussing the problem of the squirrels in the attic of the chapels. In that town, the squirrels would get into the rafters, and during the sermons, and this is in all the different denominations, the clergy are trying to give a sermon, and in the rafters there's this scurrying, this terrible sound. So they didn't know what to do. So the minister says, well, I hired an exterminating company, and it's already 6 months, and they're still there. And the priest says, I put out a bunch of traps, and they're still there. They turn to the rabbi, and the rabbi says, and they said to the rabbi, what are you doing about the squirrels? He says, we don't have squirrels anymore. He says, what did you do? He says, it's very simple. One day we put on the bima a bunch of nuts, little kind of nuts. And then I stood behind the bima and I watched out of all the corners, the squirrels came out and started congregating on the bima, eating the nuts. I grabbed the talis, I threw it over them, I bar mitzvahed them, and we've never seen them since. You know the story about the young boy who went for the first time to first grade, went to school. And his mommy walked into the bus stop or walked into the school, and he says, "My Shepsle, my Ziskai, be a good boy in school today. Bubale, please listen to your teacher. My love pie, try to answer all the questions. Sweetheart, be nice to your friends." Anyway, he goes to school, comes home. The mother looks at the child and says, "My Shenkai, my tired, what did you learn today?" He says, "I learned my name is David." And of course, from here, you could transition into a sermon very easily. You could say, every once in a while, we have to find out, who am I? What is my name? What is my true identity? What is life all about? You see, that's the art of transferring the joke into the sermon. But you don't want to hear the sermons. Let's go back to the jokes. There's a great slew of, Jewish Christian church jokes, which, we love those too. There was an atheist, Jewish grandfather, staunch atheist, a real rebeller against the Jewish system, against everything Jewish. And he decided his grandson is going to go to a Catholic school. That's right. And he sends the kid off, despite to Catholic school. The kid comes home and starts talking to his grandfather about the, Trinity, about the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. And the grandfather gets very angry and says this, "You listen here and you listen good. There's only one God, and we don't believe in him."